Bad things happen to good people all the time, especially when it comes to the idea of facing foreclosure. You may have just received a lis pendens, which is a lawsuit to start to foreclose on your property, and you're thinking, should I short sale my property? Is that the right answer, short sale? Not always. And I wanted to discuss what else is possible if you are in a position where you're thinking of short selling your property. What else can you do to solve the situation? Well, to start out, my name is Troy Funk. I have been in the real estate business going on 40 years. I am not an attorney. I'm not here to give legal advice. I am here just to explore some ideas to help somebody that is looking to solve a pending foreclosure on their property. And I have gone through that personally myself. So I'm not an expert, but I can tell you that since that point where I've had, at one point I owned 18 properties, and the market back in 06, 09, I think we know what happened. I was caught in that mess, and we're kind of in this mess again, right? Here we are in 05, and we're seeing real estate property values decline in Florida. A lot of sellers are in trouble, and how do you get out of that situation? Well, I got out of the situation, and truthfully, it was such a good thing for me personally, because it opened my world up to where now I'm helping other people with this. If you're going through a situation where you're facing foreclosure, I've gone there, I've been there, and I want to give some advice, especially short sale, and what else is possible. So let's just start out. Okay, you're facing foreclosure. Where do you go from here? What's the first choice you should make? And again, not giving legal advice, just sharing some ideas to hopefully help you with this process. Well, the first one is, it's a big question, and it is, do you want to continue owning this property? Is this a home that you want to continue owning? That decides completely what your options you should look at, which road you should take. So I want to start with the premise that yes, you want to maintain ownership of your property. You want to get through this mess. And what are my best options? Well, the obvious one is loan modification. If you've gone through a temporary situation, get the lender to help you with the loan modification. Now, loan modification can be a forbearance where they take these back payments and they put them on the back of the loan. They can change the payment of your mortgage so the payment is less, so it's easier to maintain ownership, but just basically put you back on track. You had a setback, and now you're asking your lender to help you get back on track. That's your best option if you want to continue owning the property. Now, there are 3 situations where I'm seeing the lenders will not do a loan modification. And again, this is my experience where I'm seeing loan modifications fail in 3 different situations. The first one is you've already gone through loan modification. You've already asked the lender to modify your loan. They did that. They gave you a forbearance. They've allowed you to get back on track. And here you are 6 months later, and you're asking the lender to do it again, or a year later, and you're saying, it didn't work out. Give me another loan modification. I don't see those working out. I don't see lenders offering loan modifications for a second time, especially in a short period of time where they already offered you a loan modification. They changed your payments. They've done something to help you with that. And now you're asking the lender to do it again. I'm not seeing those work. The other situation where loan modifications fail is it's not your loan. You purchased or you own the property subject to somebody else on that debt. And how is that possible? Let's just say you inherited the property. You are the owner of that property. You own that property, but the lender, the mortgage is not in your name. It was in the name of, say, your parents or whoever you inherited the property from. They are on the mortgage. So if you stop making those payments, it is your house. It is you have, or it's your property, but that mortgage not being in your name, the lender doesn't need to talk to you, and they, modify a mortgage on somebody that doesn't own the property. I'm not seeing a lot of success. If you don't own the mortgage, if it's not in your name, the house is in your name or the property is in your name, the mortgage isn't, I'm not seeing success with loan modification. And the third option is you just don't qualify. Let's just say that you lost your job, you lost your income, you have no income, and now you're asking the lender to modify your mortgage, and there's no income to back it up. Because even if they do modify the mortgage, how are you going to continue to get back on track making those payments? So a loan modification is a good option if you're looking to stay in the property, but you still have to qualify. The lender has to work with you. Does the lender have to work with you? I'm not seeing that happen all the time. So those are the situations, but it gets back to, that's a good solution if you want to maintain the property. But I also ask sellers, why? Why do you want to continue owning this property? What are the reasons? Because I had a seller I recently met with, and they wanted to do a short sale, and I said, this is not a good solution for you. Not right now anyway. You have better options. You shouldn't try to short sale your home. First off, you should want to live in your home. You're a single parent. His wife had passed away, raising his young daughter. He is employed. He's waiting on a settlement. He was hurt in an accident. That settlement could actually pay his house off. So he just needs a little time to get through this situation, but he doesn't want to move, but he doesn't want the pressure of going through foreclosure. So he wanted to do a short sale. You want to talk to an attorney in that regard, because if you want to stay in the property, there are attorneys, and I can provide some information on some that I use, that will hold this foreclosure process back. And it's subjective how long they can hold it back. It could be a year, could be more. But in that time, if you're able to solve this problem and keep this house, that makes sense, especially in a situation where someone's waiting for a settlement, they don't want to move. You shouldn't have your house on the market as a short sale. It's not what you want. You want to maintain ownership of the property. Now, the flip side of that is I have people that say, yes, I want to own the property. I want to do a modification. And I'll say, why? Well, my wife and I just got a divorce. It took 2 incomes to support this house. I'm down to 1 income. I can't do it, but I want the lender to modify my mortgage. I question, do you really want to own this property? Is it really the right decision? We're talking a 4-bedroom home with a pool. You're a single person. Why do you want to continue owning this property? It's facing foreclosure. And the answer is, well, I've lived here 40 years. This is all I know. My kids know. They grew up here. I can't lose the house. Well, that's a hard one. It's hard emotionally on you because you've been there 40 years. But it's obvious you can't afford it anymore. It took 2 incomes, and now you're down to 1 income. And the situation doesn't look like it's going to ever get better. Unless you find another income source or something to do. But ideally, that one might be difficult, especially if you've owned the house that long. You may have a lot of equity, and selling that property could give you a nice, could potentially get you into another property, smaller property that you can afford, free and clear. You'll never have to deal with this foreclosure muck again the rest of your life. That's a better quality of life than holding on to something that doesn't serve you anymore. A lot of people think they own their house, when the reality is their house owns them. And that's a challenging one, because when your house owns them, you're supporting it. You're putting more of your life to support this house when it's really not giving you the quality of life you need. And just scaling back could be a good solution. So those are the ideas that, yes, I want to maintain ownership of the property, loan modification, and if I do that, does it really make sense? Is that the right decision to keep it or not? So let's talk about the idea that, no, I don't want this house. It doesn't make sense. It's financially not good for me. And what are my best options to prevent a foreclosure? So now let's explore the options of, I want to sell my property. What are the best options here, to prevent foreclosure, to sell it? Or do I even sell it? Well, let's just talk about some ideas. Number 1, deed in lieu. The bank says, look, just deed us the house, problem solved, right? Not so easy. I've had a couple situations where this, and I think a lot of owners don't realize when they deed their property in Florida on a deed in lieu, and we're talking Florida because every state is different, there's a thing in Florida called a deficiency judgment. And a deficiency judgment is when the lender forecloses or takes ownership of your property. They are at a loss from the difference from what you owe them to what they resell the property for. They're going to take a loss, and that is a loss that they want to pursue to get back. Well, on a deficiency judgment, they can come back after you for that difference. So even after you've had your property foreclosed or you've deeded the property back to them, which is also known as a voluntary foreclosure, where you deed the property back to them, the lender could pursue a deficiency judgment. You look at the fine print of the lenders, they want the right to be able to pursue a deficiency. What's the point? I mean, why hand them the keys? Why give them your house for without trying to find a better solution? That's not, to me, the best option. And that's if the lender will accept it. And the other problem with the deed in lieu is if the lender does accept the deed in lieu, they want all the other subordinate liens resolved. That means if you have a first mortgage, the second mortgage needs to be paid off. If there are condo dues or HOA dues, that all has to be paid off, back taxes. I mean, in essence, by doing a deed in lieu, you have to come up with potentially a lot of money, which if you're in that situation where you're not making your mortgage payments, where is that coming from? Not seeing a lot of deed in lieus, again, because there's the stipulations with that, plus the idea that you're not really clean, you're not really clear out of that process. You may not be clear, it depends on the situation. But a deed in lieu is one option that doesn't seem to work very well. And what about bankruptcy? Well, bankruptcy, I find, is like the last step. If all else fails, I see that sellers, they own their home. It's Monday. On Wednesday, the bank is going to have a sale date at the courthouse steps, and they're going to foreclose on the property. That's where I see people call their attorney and say, I want to file bankruptcy. They wait to the very last minute as an option to file bankruptcy. So bankruptcy is an option, but it seems to be the last possible option if you're looking to stop a foreclosure. And then we come down to, should I short sale the property? Well, this is where I say, wait, there are some solutions. Now, if it comes down to it, now I represent, right now, I'm currently representing about 40 sellers that are facing foreclosure in the state of Florida. And that's something that I focus on. But if I have a seller and they're close, let's just say that we get to a point where we're a few $1,000s from them selling the house and making nothing, or with that difference, we're going to be into a short sale situation. I will personally help that seller every way I can not to do a short sale. And I tell the sellers, what can we do not to short sale this property? If our numbers are close, I recommend don't go through the process. That means you may have to sell something you love, that you know, that old antique car in the garage that doesn't serve you, but it's a collector's item. You know, if you sell that, yeah, that'll give you money, or items, or, you know, what can you do? Borrow, just so you don't have to go through the short sale. And why? Well, if you don't have to go through the short sale process and you have a buyer, you've sold your house. Your mortgage will be paid off. You're done. There is no repercussions to doing that, where a short sale has some downsides. Now, that's, you know, where you have to look at, I don't have that option. If I don't short sale my property, then it's going to be a foreclosure. Well, I see a lot of people deed their house away, like a deed, like a, not a deed in lieu, I'd call it subject to. They'll sell the house subject to. They'll just let somebody else take over their mortgage and they're out of it, right? I think that's the worst possible thing a seller can do, because here's what's problematic with a subject to. When you sell your house to somebody else, let them take over your mortgage, you're still on the mortgage. And that means that person now owns your property. They can rent it, try to resell it. But let's just say they own that property for 5 years. 5 years later, they stop making payments. There's no repercussions to them. Yes, they own the property, but there's no repercussions. It's still your mortgage. So now you thought you sold your house, you thought you solved the situation. Somebody else has your mortgage, they stop making payments. the consequences still fall on you as the former owner of that property, which means that property then can be foreclosed, and your 7-year financial jail sentence starts at that point, not from the point that you deeded your house over. I'm not a fan of subject to, just because it doesn't let you off the hook if you're trying to sell your house. Okay, short sale. As I said, try to avoid it. But let's say you need to. It's either short sale or foreclosure. What should I do? Well, short sale, of course. But here's the reality of the situation. And I'm just being blunt here. In real estate sales, and it's not hard to figure out, the top 10 agents, or the top 10% of the agents in our MLS system, account for about 90% of the sales. So most of the properties being sold through realtors are only done by a small percentage of agents. And of those small percentage, very few have ever done a short sale. And a lot of people select a real estate broker to short sell their property. And the first question you should ask is, have you ever done one? What's your experience level? What other short sale properties have you closed on? It's just like if your child needed surgery, would you just have a surgeon, perform surgery? You do some due diligence on the surgeon. You want to make sure that your calculated risk to get this short sale through is going to work out. And that is subject to who you select to represent you in the short sale of your property. Now, I've had years where I've had over 100 distressed sales. And as I said, it's my passion point because I've gone through this myself, going through foreclosure and then short sale. Short sale, problem with short sale is the process that it took for you to get into this mortgage, it's going to take for you to get back out. You don't just automatically get approved to do a short sale. You have to show your financials. You have to show your bank returns. You have to show your tax returns, should I say, bank statements. You have to qualify. Let's just say you have 100,000 plus in the bank. Are you going to be able to qualify for a short sale? No, because the banks need to see that you do not have the resources to continue making a payment. So you have to qualify. If you have money in the bank, they're going to want to see that money pay down the mortgage. It's not going to handle the short sale. So you have to qualify. The process takes about 3 months in some cases. And will a short sale delay foreclosure? It definitely can. If you have a property on the market and you're showing your lender you're trying to short sell the property, in many cases they will postpone foreclosure. They'll delay it to allow you to do that. A lot of times in a short sale, the occupant, the seller, will get a relocation assistance, no guarantees, but sometimes it's $2,500 to allow you to move out of the property. The best thing about the short sale is you're in control of the process. You actually decide who you sell the property to. You control the closing date. You can work on your terms. And the impact to a short sale is it's going to hurt you for about 3 years. It's going to show a charge off on your credit. It's going to show your loan was paid off, but it was charged off. And again, with a short sale, we focus on trying to get that deficiency waived. So after this short sale is closed, you're not going to have a deficiency judgment like you could with a foreclosure. 3 years goes by quick. I had to do a short sale in my house. And I'll tell you, it was probably the best financial decision I ever made because I had a lot of debt. The short sale canceled that debt. It put me back in the marketplace of buying another home 3 years later, which I did. The market was still in a challenging place. I bought my forever home for about half of what it would have cost in the peak of the market. And then after I purchased it, it went back up. And now values are coming back down. But it doesn't matter because I found I got out of a bad situation. The short sale was a process, but it allowed me to do that. So I want to be a resource to help you. If there's anything I can do, feel free to reach me personally. My information is below. Again, my name is Troy Funk, and it's Funk, F-U-N-K, Funk K. As I mentioned, I've been doing this. This is my passion. If you're facing foreclosure, I want to be a resource to help you. All the best.